Hi guys, I'm going to be showing you how to do some shading today, and for this drawing we're going to be using a neutral colored paper. This is just a piece of paper from a paper grocery bag. When you use a neutral color like this, it can make a really nice effect. So I'm going to be using a black colored pencil and a white colored pencil. If you don't have these, you can use something else that's white to do some of the white shading, like a piece of chalk or a white crayon or something like that. I'm avoiding using a regular pencil on this because this kind of pencil will just get darker and have a more deep black, and sometimes a regular pencil will get really shiny. Even like an ebony pencil will become rather shiny when you're trying to get a dark black, and so this is going to be a better choice for me. You don't have to use a grocery bag like I did. You could also use a piece of colored paper that's kind of a neutral color. You don't want to have a bright color or a super dark color. Something that's a nice gray or a beige or a brown can be good. So right now I'm just going to show you a couple of ways to do shading. Okay, in this box I'm just going to show you what I would call smooth shading, regular shading, where you are, I'm going to make one side of the box dark and then move towards light. So I'm going to be adding my color in layers rather than trying to go as dark as I possibly can right away. I'm going to color in my dark side, and I'm just putting less and less pressure, and I'm just not pushing very hard with the pencil right now, so that my shading gets lighter and lighter and lighter. So it fades to the color of the paper, which is really a medium rather than a light. I can always go back over on this side and I can put more pressure, I can put more layers, I can darken that black. I'm trying to avoid there being like a harsh line where it stops being black and there's like an obvious place where it starts being medium. So I'm trying to make it really gradual. Don't forget that the paper itself is a color, so you don't have to shade every single spot in the paper. A lot of the paper can stay the color of the paper. That's why we're using this medium colored paper, this neutral. So with the white, I'm gonna have the same thing with the white, only I'm moving from the right to the left. And I wanna leave an area in the middle that's not at all shaded by either white or dark. And again, I'm not adding all of the color at once. I'm building it up on layers and making sure that my most intense white is this part right here on the edge of my little box, okay? So right there you have just a subtle gradation from dark to medium to light. You don't have to make it super smooth though. A lot of times you'll see artists do something called hatching and cross hatching. That's when you're doing the shading and really just using kind of scratchy lines to do the shading, or they can be crisscross lines. I like to do this a lot, and you leave it kind of rough. You don't need it to be super duper smooth. The lines can go any direction, they can cross over each other, they can be a little messy, and you can always go back, and the more layers of lines you add, the more intense that area is in the shading. So you can see that's a lot rougher, but it still does what I want it to do. You can do the same thing with the white. Especially if you're drawing something that has a lot of texture, you can do this. Like if you're drawing something that has hair or fur, or it has a texture on it and it's not just some smooth thing, you might not want it to be super duper smooth. You might want it to be a little more rough like this. So consider that when you're making your drawing. Now I'm going to do a little drawing of this succulent plant. This is a nice thing to draw because it has parts of it that are really smooth, and the smooth parts of your drawing are going to have highlights and shadows that have really crisp edges. As you can see, this place where the light is reflected, the edges are pretty straight. It's not blurred that much. My finger is casting a shadow, which I won't end up drawing, but the shadows on this shiny thing are going to have harder edges. The shadows on things like the dirt or even some of the plant leaves, they might have a little more of a soft gradation from light to medium to dark. I'm going to be drawing on a piece of brown paper grocery bag that I cut to a workable size. I also ironed it a little bit. It's still a little bit wrinkly, but if you have a lot of folds in your paper, you can iron it. I know that seems weird, but that's what I did to get it a little more flat. Start out by drawing your main shapes. I use the colored pencil, but for the initial drawing, I would recommend using a regular pencil so you can erase it more easily. Then when you start to shade, you can go back to your colored pencils, adding the darks and the whites as you go. It doesn't really matter if you do the darks first or the whites first. You can kind of choose which one you prefer. But as you can see, the more you start adding those darks and lights, your drawing will start to really leap off of the page and look like it's really got a 3D quality to it. One of the things that will really help your drawing stand out is to have a lot of contrast. So don't be afraid to go really dark where the thing that you're observing has a really dark area. Make your shadows have a lot of contrast with the light areas, and it will be a more striking picture. I didn't show you guys a picture of the setup I have here, but I turned off all of the overhead lights in my room and just used one single desk lamp as a spotlight on my flower pot that I was drawing so that I would have really nice crisp shadows, and that makes for a little bit more dramatic drawing. If your light is really diffused or if you have multiple light sources, it's harder to get those nice shadows. And remember, the more you practice, the better you'll get at this. It takes some time to really get it right. Thanks for watching and enjoy your drawing.